Blessed Implosion, 5th in the Angel of Death series, is now available. Order your copy from StevieJoAuthor.com.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Composition of Imagination. I'm your host and author Stevie Jo. This is the show where we talk about anything and everything related to Angel of Death, and we are continuing our Murmurs of Murr County series this month. And with me, very excited to have this conversation, as you can tell, are my book guardians, Superman and Tasha. They know what they're in for today because we are talking
I do.
about...
She doesn't.
We are talking about Aezra today, which I think is the one we've kind of been waiting for. Just to hash out some frustration a little bit. We're all caught up on the books and everything, so we kind of know what's going to happen, and we're going to go through it with you today. So, here we go, talking about Aezra, the original leading man of the series. Like we usually do on the very first Murmurs of Murr County video, before we get started in the character development, I like to talk about the actual background and like physical attributes and stuff about the character, if we can. We may not know all that stuff. But with Aezra, we've got a little bit. So he's a very unique character, to say the least. Just looking at, in the beginning, the first book, because that's what we're focusing on this week, here's some things that we do know about him. He's a sanguise. That is his creature species. So, just in case you're just now tuning in, sanguise is basically the modern vampire. Really, in Angel of Death, vampires are extinct. Their lifestyle couldn't sustain them throughout the years, is what I meant to say. Brain fart. So basically, a sanguise is a more well-adapted vampire. It's a creature with sharp fangs who preys on humans and creatures alike and consumes their blood for nutrients. An important distinction between the two here is that a sanguise does not require the constant blood supply, with one exception, in order to stay healthy. Do they still need it? Yes. But do they have to go hunting for it, so to speak, like a vampire does? No. So they can eat regular food, drink regular drink, all that stuff. Sanguise can also go in sunlight, see their reflections, all those things. They're, like I said, a more well-adapted version of the vampire. So you kind of start to see what I mean. So the one exception that I mentioned about their blood drinking stuff is the bloodlust exchange, which is when the sanguise finds what's called their lifeblood. It's basically mating for life, and they will do an exchange of blood genetics, and they will both be sanguise that feed exclusively off of each other. So that's kind of, and the ceremony is very very horrific messy and horrific, yes. And you don't even get a taste of it yet. That's not even close to what it is. But we will see more about that as the series progresses. The rest of the stuff that we know about Aezra is he's very old. We don't know how old yet. But as we go through the series, we're given kind of hints about how long he's been around. And what I do want to say is age in Angel of Death is different. So a lot of creatures have long life just by the nature of the species. For example, like a sanguise or a lichen. If we were to rank longevity of life in Angel of Death by like species or race, from shortest to longest, it would be zombies, humans, lichens, sanguise, mythics, then merfolk. So that kind of gives you an idea of what lifespan we're talking about here. I haven't exactly broken those down into little detailed stuff, but we can safely say lichens have the potential to live between 100 to 200 years. Sanguise can live for a couple thousand, the original sin sanguise being the one exception. Mythics live several thousand years, and merfolk live even longer. So none of these creatures are quote-unquote immortal in the traditional sense, but because of their natural healing abilities and the long lives they live, humans call them immortal because humans are always going to be outlived. You know what I mean? So another thing about Aezra is he's quite built. Right away, he's described as being tall and chiseled. Unlike Elias, Aezra's muscle tone and definition is very clearly visible, even through his clothes. The way I think of his physique is almost like, I keep making wrestling references on this show, but it's almost like Triple H. He comes out in those tight shirts, and you can clearly see his physique. That's kind of the image, not that he's built like Triple H, just that that's when you see him in a t-shirt, that's what you're seeing, is like those muscle tones. He's got brown eyes that do turn black when he's hungry for blood, and he's got shorter brown hair, no facial hair. He prefers to be clean shaven. He has no tattoos, but he does have a very large diamond that he keeps on his person in some form at all times. Mostly he keeps it in a belt buckle, but he'll wear it in various ways throughout the series. And another thing you may or may not have noticed is that Aezra never talks about his family, nor does he have a last name. Why not?
Because he was disowned.
You think?
Yeah. He killed all his family, and whatever family was left over sit there and didn't want anything to do with him. And
honestly, would we be surprised if that was actually...
Yeah, that... I mean, with his attitude, he's lucky he has friends. If you want to call him that.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit too. So, before we really get into the crux of his character development, I want to talk about what I said in the opening, that Aezra was, at one point, whether we like it or not, drafted and outlined as the leading man. Fun fact, his name used to be Reed instead of Aezra. Yeah. Yeah, his name used to be Reed. No. Yeah, he doesn't fit that, does he? No. He's definitely an Aezra. Yeah, it was Reed before. No. After a while of writing him, I decided to make him a secondary character and created Elias as a replacement for the leading man role. Why do you think I made that change? Why wasn't Aezra good enough to play the lead? Couldn't I have just written him better?
You could have, but I think the development of the character, instead of it being a leading heroic man, he tended to go toward, lazy, narcissistic, self-centered.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah. I mean, if you go by, especially book 1.
Yeah.
How you introduce him, you could see there are good qualities, but for the most part you're going, oh, it's that kind of character.
She said, when you said good qualities.
I mean, but we don't know the character, so when you initially describe him...
I didn't like him then.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do distinctly remember when we brought up Aezra being introduced, she was like, I don't like him.
I don't like him.
Yeah. That was that's what I said.
You're not. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with her assessment.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if you're going
at that point. Yeah, I get what you're
even
saying.
At that point, I didn't like him.
Yeah,
there's no.
She smelled his bullshit a mile away.
Yes,
that's what.
Well, that could be.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's start talking about Aezra, and we'll get into this by talking about Chapter 2. In the beginning, the first book of the series, which is aptly titled Sanguise, because we are learning about this new type of character. It serves as the introduction to both Skye and Aezra, kind of setting them up as our lead couple. And in this chapter, I do explain what a sanguise is, like I did at the beginning of this video, which, by the way, I did forget to mention, one of the Latin translations of the word is lifeblood. So that's where I got that from, just in case you were wondering. I also kind of set up that dynamic between Aezra and Skyelar. They're portrayed at this point as a normal couple who are very sexually charged, but with creature abilities. So the important thing to get out of this particular chapter is that even though Skye is in a relationship with him, she won't let him feed off of her. He has asked numerous times if she would perform the bloodlust exchange ceremony with him because he is convinced that he finally found his lifeblood. So Skye agrees to consider it. And she makes Aezra promise not to feed from anyone else until she makes her choice. You might wonder here where he gets his nutrients from, and the answer is from Skyelar. Because if she's saying don't drink from anybody else, well, where's he going to get those? He gets it from Skyelar, in this book anyway, in the form of blood bags. So it's donated blood, not hers. All that kind of thing. So anyway, Aezra keeps trying to pressure Skye into doing that ceremony, and she keeps telling him no. He even uses his immovable strength to pin her against the wall in an effort to coerce her into what he wants, like he always likes to do. She tells him she hates that, so he clearly has a history with this. But he says there's nothing she can do about it because she is his. Of course, that prompts her to push back for what we can assume is the first time. Essentially, this relationship between Aezra and Skye is still new. They've only been dating for 6 months, and while she may be fully aware of that, I think we would all agree Aezra is over here acting like they've been together for years, and it's time to take it to the next level. So the chapter even ends with Aezra telling Skye that she'll have to give in one of these days. Like, that's something you say to a long-term partner.
Yeah.
Why is Aezra so anxious to speed things along and take their relationship further, even when Skye protests?
Because he's a douche and doesn't have anybody else.
Yep.
Yeah?
He's a narcissist.
No, he knows. He knows there's something special about her.
Okay.
And he wants that. He wants what she has for himself. So he's trying to, basically trick her into giving in.
Yeah.
So he can get that before she realizes she has it.
Okay. Okay, so we're not thinking that it's just I need my lifeblood.
I love you, all that. No, there's no love involved. He can sit there and say that till the cows come home. Guess what? It's falling on hollow ears. I mean, when you have to pin somebody against a wall, that's not love. That's control.
Okay. So when I was getting this book edited, one of the notes from my editor was about this particular chapter, chapter 2, and I found it really interesting. She said something to the tune of, the book just started and we're already obsessed with this couple. We want to see them grow stronger together and take over the world.
No.
She was singing really high praises for Aezra and Skye's relationship. Did you guys feel similarly when you first read it?
No.
Why was your experience so different, do you think?
Because I could spot that bullshit a mile away.
I mean,
I've been with those types of dudes. I could spot. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
So
not.
maybe
to a layman that's not really been in these kind of relationships.
Yeah.
It looks like a normal relationship aside from the pinning up against the wall and stuff like that. And it might be, a sexually repressed thing that, ooh, pin me against the wall,
No, because she doesn't like that. She already protested that.
True.
But on his part, it might be like...
for him, maybe, but then for the reader, there's some people get off on that.
That's true. That's true. We do have our 50 Shades audience. Out there.
But yeah, and the dynamic of the two personalities, how they bounce off each other. I think that's what maybe she was picking up on.
Enjoying. Because they do have a very interesting back and forth on occasion.
Yeah.
So, So in chapter 3, she's less than enthused with him. So in chapter 3, Aezra and Skye head over to the McCoy farm so they can have brunch with one of Aezra's friends. I say one of Aezra's friends, because even though Julia is married, we quickly learn that her husband is not a friend of Aezra's. Aezra tries to throw his weight around with Skyelar again, and she tells him to stop again, but he won't, so she has to push back again. And that really upsets him because that's twice now that she's done that. And he tells her he loves her.
How dare you stand up to me?
Yeah, he tells her he loves her, all that jazz.
Ugh.
He tries to rationalize the BLE, the bloodlust exchange, by saying that, to a sanguise, the BLE means more than marriage. And which is true.
That's a bullshit statement.
He's not making it up for dramatic effect. It really is true, because the BLE requires you to give yourself over so completely.
Yeah.
Whereas marriage, you can sign another paper and get out of it. It's not that easy. But that's what I'm saying. By comparison. The BLE is changing your entire genetic makeup.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so much more important. Do you think that Aezra recognizes that because he's trying to play this, do you think Aezra recognizes he's trying to play sympathy on her? He's saying, well, this means more to marriage, and he's trying to get sympathy from her? Or do you think this is something he really does know and acknowledge is difficult, so he's trying to relate it to her in the best way he knows how?
No.
You think?
No, he's BSing her. He's sitting there.
There's no hint of
no.
This really does mean something to me.
It means a lot to him because it feeds his power.
But not it means something to me in the way he's trying to relate to her.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Oh no, there's a secondary reason, and the thing is that he's about as subtle as a brick. Instead of being able to work it to where it made sense.
Yeah.
For what he wants.
Yeah.
He just kind of lazily blunders through like he's trying to go through a wall.
Yeah.
And you're going, no wonder he can't get anywhere. I mean, he's been around for so long that he doesn't understand how to, and not, I guess, he doesn't change with the times.
Yeah.
He knows one way, and that's the only way he knows, and that's the only way he's ever going to be.
Okay. Well, whatever his real intention is behind all this, Skye does soften and asks him to be patient with her as she tries to make this decision. So they go inside the McCoy house to eat, and Aezra and Sonny, which is Julia's husband, they get into an argument, as always, because Aezra really, what it comes down to is Aezra just can't keep his fucking mouth shut. So Julia takes Skye to go get some mimosas in the kitchen and calm her down. And Sonny scolds Aezra for not taking proper care of Skye, deducing that Aezra's gonna propose. He's a guy, he figured this out, So of course, Skye has to come back into the room just in time to hear him say that you're gonna propose.
I love how you wrote that because you timed it out perfect.
Yeah.
You could literally see her coming. Well, yeah. There goes everything.
There goes all the drinks. So that, her spilling everything and getting whoa, what the fuck, prompts Aezra to tell her he loves her and he wants to spend forever catching her when she slips and spilled mimosas. No. What do you say? Proposal.
No.
He pulls out
6 months?
Yeah.
No.
He pulls out this giant ring for her to take, but she just grimaces and the chapter ends. So, do you think Aezra... Here's an interesting question. Do you think Aezra really did have a plan to propose? Or do you think he was kind of backed into a corner by Sonny?
I think he had a plan, but, him being the lazy fool he is, he was probably going to do something that, disturbingly cheesy.
As opposed to, what do you say?
Yeah. It's wow, dude can't even propose. I mean, he's that lazy. And she sits there and, oh, well, I don't know. I don't like pressure situations.
For this.
Yeah.
You know.
And, you know, because everything kind of pointed to that there was going to be a proposal of some sort.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of funny. Oh, they're going to have lunch with somebody that he doesn't like.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So there's a reason for it.
Yeah. If we go back to what Aezra said about the bloodlust exchange meaning more than a marriage proposal, why would he even bother proposing? That's a lot of extra work for someone like him, to your point about him being lazy. That's a lot of extra work for someone like him to do the whole marriage thing when he could just have the bloodlust exchange and be done with it. Why go through all this trouble if it won't even guarantee his end goal?
Because he may not be able to access the power in the bloodlust exchange. It has to be freely given.
Okay.
So he has to go through the whole rigmarole to... And maybe the bloodlust exchange, there's certain steps you do have to take.
Okay. So it's a...
I mean, like, down the line.
Yeah. So it's not that he wants to do all this and go through these extra steps. It's that it may be required.
Yes.
Okay.
No. I think he's doing it because he thinks that's what she wants.
So, like, that's what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Is the movie in her mind.
Yeah. If I marry her.
Yeah.
Then after we're married, she'll do the bloodlust. But she won't do it unless.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds so wrong on so many levels.
I mean, she's got a valid point.
She does have a point. No, she does.
Yes,
but if you think about it, it's like, ew.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't pressure anybody into marriage. Don't. Yeah. Just don't. Don't do anything Aezra's doing.
Don't even get married. Just live together instead. It's a lot cheaper than a divorce.
And it doesn't hurt your credit, from what I hear.
Yeah.
You can get half your shit.
Well, next time we see Aezra and Skye again is chapter 6. They're on their way back to Skye's house after she told him maybe for the proposal. Aezra keeps telling her, Skye, you're it for me. That's his thing. You're it. She knows how this works, is what he says. You know how this works. And she just has to blurt out, I don't know if you're it for me. And that really angers Aezra. And he pins her. I know. He does his old move again where he pins her to the wall and considers really just changing her right then and there while he's got her held back. But decides against it. And of course they have a quick little bout of angry, like half makeup sex, I guess, if you want to call it. It's angry, to say the least. And then Skye says, well, we are all thinking that their relationship is moving way too fast. So Aezra argues against it, of course, kind of pigeonholing her again into saying that she'll marry him, giving him an answer, saying, I will marry you this weekend if you just promise to wait until I'm ready for the BLE before we do it. And Aezra's like, all right.
Hey, baby, cool. I'll do it. Yeah.
So he says, well, all right, we'll do that, but you need to wear this ring for 24 hours at least to see how it feels, see how you like it. And if you decide that you only want marriage, then I'll end the relationship. That's fine. So, but
he will kill her.
The thing about it is she has to wear the ring tonight around her entire family. And she knows that and calls him an asshole for it. And he just tells her again that he loves her and leaves.
You know, that would have been the moment to sit there and walk back and go, I know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your narcissistic, oversized ring.
Yeah.
And you wear the ring around the family.
Yeah.
You know? And instead, she sits there and, you know, cowers to what he's doing. And that's the most frustrating thing about her character, is that she's a strong character, but with him, she always, you know,
she's more
folds
meek
up.
and yeah.
Yeah, she folds up like a flower.
Yeah. Well, I just have a couple more questions to round out today's discussion. First of all, do you think this day went nothing like Aezra expected it would go? Or do you think he was able to kind of somewhat predict how Skye would behave, thereby making this rushed marriage decision his real plan all along?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So we think that was, he kind of anticipated her every move and was kind of like, if I rush her into this.
If I put her in situations that she can't get out of,
Yeah.
I can get what I want.
Okay. Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, last question for this video. If Skye decides that she only wants marriage and not the BLE, would Aezra really let her go, or would
No.
he try to take it by force?
Oh, he'd take it by force.
What a dick.
And he would, because he would have the coverage of, well, we're married, so it's okay.
Okay. So,
We got a little too intense, and I lost my head.
yes, okay. The self-defense spouse situation. Well, thank you guys for beginning this discussion on Aezra. We start out pretty strong there with some I hate you discussion. So thank you all for watching. We will continue this on Wednesday, so be sure you tune in. We'll start talking in more detail about Aezra in the beginning. So subscribe so you don't miss it. Give this video a thumbs up. We love you, and we'll see you Wednesday.
Catch up on the Angel of Death series today. The first 4 entries are now available directly at StevieJoAuthor.com.
That's Baxter's running, but because he can't figure out how to catch his breath, so he like as he runs.
Oh my god!
Or like out back, you'll hear Baxter. He's
Breathe,
wild.
child, breathe.
He's wild.